What's up, everyone? Welcome to the To Arete Podcast. My name is Sammy.
And I'm Mike.
And the name arete essentially refers to a concept in ancient Greece that refers to the realization of one's full potential and the pursuit of excellence. And of course, every time you become better and you improve as a person, your potential improves with you. You're never going to get there. It's the same as a gym pump. You get a nice pump in the gym and you say, oh, I want to look like that. But then every time you get bigger, your pump improves with you.
It's always going to get better,
You keep on chasing it. That's why we decided to call it the way to arete, because it is a journey. It is a process. You're not going to get to the destination ever. And that's the beauty of it.
In ancient Greece, it was an ideal trying to get to this. Arete was an ideal of excellence.
Exactly.
So everybody was trying to get to that by improving themselves in all aspects of life, which actually is the second part of this and the core framework of arete. You have health, wealth, relationships, and ethos.
Ethos
is a nice one. A lot of people are probably gonna ask what that is.
Yeah.
How would you
What is
describe
it?
Yeah, I mean, ethos is what I would say is a combination of someone's like virtues that comes from education, experience, everything that they've accumulated over the years, again through education and experience, and what that has gotten them to in terms of their values, like what they consider right, what they consider wrong, and essentially that's ethos. So in a very quick manner,
It's a complicated term for sure. I think you described it pretty well, that it essentially refers to the values someone has collected over their life from their personal experience, but also the education they've received. It is the characteristic spirit of oneself, maybe the characteristics that form a culture or a community or a person even. And we decided to name it ethos because it encompasses so many areas, from culture to history,
politics.
to politics. And in order to learn how to best act in the world, in order to learn your role in the world, you have to first understand it. And we believe that is the ethos.
And even in ancient Greece, that's where democracy came from. Everything that our society is based on came from that. And the ideal citizen, they need to be active in society in terms of in the politics.
Exactly.
And to go and vote. So, because I mentioned politics, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to think that, politics is a little bit of a sensitive thing nowadays.
Yeah.
You don't want to get political. You don't want to do this.
Yeah. Or people who, I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah. You don't care. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting society. There are a lot of things that you're I guess there are a lot of things that go into politics, and I know that right now it might feel like you cannot do anything, but essentially that's the goal. The goal is for you to be well educated, well rounded, get a lot of experience. And sometimes, experience is amazing. It's probably the best teacher. It doesn't have to be your experience. That's why you have to read. That's why you have to do all those things. But we stayed on ethos a lot. I want to say a little bit about what this podcast is going to be about, and why, and also why now? Why are we doing this now?
Well, I think you made a great point by saying that all of this was happening in ancient Greece, which was a thriving civilization at some point. But I feel like since then there's been a big decline, especially in Greece.
All over the world.
But generally all over the world. And I think that if we do our part to restore sort of this belief system, these values, that eventually people will be able to be happier. They'll be able to live more purposefully.
Is anybody happy right now? That's why I said all over the world, because if you think about it, nobody's
less
happy.
and less, I'd say. Less and less.
No, and not as just a person. I'm saying as groups of people. Like you have all these different types of people and all these groups that everybody's always annoyed by something else from a different group.
Yeah.
So essentially, nobody's happy at this point right now. even the people who, like the most privileged people and the
Mhm.
less privileged, like everybody has a problem with something going on right now. And of course, life is going to be that way. And I'm sure
Yeah.
in ancient Greece, they also had their problems. But there needs to be a baseline of something that we can all like agree on, so that we can have like some, we can get to the next step, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going to be fighting on the very basic things.
That's true.
Right now, we have different ideas of what's right, what's wrong, between like people in the same country, in the same city.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody
very
needs to be the same
divided.
person.
Yeah.
We are different people, like, and we need to encourage individuality for sure.
Yeah.
But that's what ethos comes in. Like some core values need to be established no matter what. And I feel like in today's society, I'm being like very frank, there are no solid core values.
The values are definitely disappearing.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think it's not only, you mentioned happiness, I think it's not just about being happy. I think it's about being
Satisfied, let's say. And happiness
living
was
purposefully,
Yeah.
like having purpose. I think a lot of people nowadays lack purpose. They get caught up and get stuck in the routine, just a 9 to 5 that maybe they don't enjoy, or even a business where they're making money and yet they still feel trapped. And it comes down to having a really strong set of values, morals, and principles that if you live by, you can actually feel more fulfilled and be happy.
So that brings me to the next one, which is like, why? Why now? And what? Okay, I mean, it's pretty obvious why we're doing this, but why now?
Well, why now? Because, like you said, people are on the one hand, there's a lot of people who are comfortable. They're not really chasing improvement or trying to better themselves. And we were discussing it yesterday that actually every day the world moves forward. The markets are moving forward. We lose muscle mass as we age. We lose mobility. Our bones and joints get weaker. Your brain declines.
Yeah, 100%.
So actually, if you're not improving,
yeah, you said that yesterday, and
you're going backwards.
It really stuck with me. It's like there's no stagnation. You don't stay in the same position.
Exist.
A lot of people are like, oh, I feel like I'm in the same place. If you haven't moved forward, and you said it perfectly, if you don't move forward, you move backwards, because life continues, time continues. So as you age, things around you change.
The world changes. Yeah.
If you stay the same, you're essentially moving backwards.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and as you said, a lot of people have lost this will to grow, to get better. Why do you think that is?
Why people have lost the will to grow? Comfort is one part of it. People get comfortable with their current situation.
And we live a very comfortable life right now.
Yeah.
Compared to what people were doing, 2,000 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. I think that's one. I think a second one is maybe lack. You see also things like spirituality or religion going backwards. The amount of religious people these amounts are declining. You see people are lacking a moral compass more and more. I feel like more also at least I can speak for the younger generation.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing.
But what do you think? Why do you think they're lacking a moral compass?
Why they're lacking it?
Why?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Why they're lacking it?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I believe as the time passes, I see people with fewer and fewer like values. So, but why do you think that happens?
I think that's what we're here also to understand.
To understand, yeah. I think honestly.
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe it's one thing for sure.
No.
But I think definitely one of the reasons why it happens is, especially when you have a society that gets further and further away from all the things that back in the day kept the society together. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of those things is religion. And I'm not like advocating that people should be super religious or not. That's up to everybody individually. Mm-hmm. But it was what kept people together. So because religion had a certain values that people had to adhere to. Back then, people didn't think, they actually believed a lot more than they do now. Now we have science. A lot of people are very quick to disprove a lot of things with religion, and I understand that concept. Yeah. So I think that if you steer away from religion that has values, religion also advocates family. You steer away from that as a result of that.
So you steer away from the values that the religion is.
Yeah, the religion was just an example
Promotes,
of why we have why our values are fewer and fewer as we grow. Because also you have something that you didn't have in the past. You have also the other thing, you're mixing a lot of different people. Now you have people,
globalization is also one reason.
Yeah, you have people that would never meet as like civilizations 2,000 years ago or even 1,000 years ago, and
even 400 or 500 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have these people now living under the same, like in the same country with very different backgrounds, very different ideologies, and I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that this creates, I believe, a little bit of an overwhelming amount of information coming in. And then you have social media.
Yeah.
Just like a whole different beast there. You also on social media, you see what's the right word for this? You see the destruction of values. You see a lot of people like flaunting things that a few years ago something like that would be, it would be shame. Yeah. Should that be shamed on now? I don't know. It's a tough question because at the same time you see people that kids look up to, and these people have no values. They talk about other people in a very disgraceful way, and then young people look up to that.
Yeah,
they become like them.
Yeah, the overload of information from social media definitely is also one of the big issues. Like, you get bombarded with so much information. Also, back in the day, it was a lot simpler, right? You grow up, you only have a contact with your family, and the people in your neighborhood, and whatever everyone around you believes, you also believe. Now you have access to so much information, like all the religions, the news from
no direction,
different sources, social media, and I think. Yeah, when people get faced with too many choices, often they can't make a choice.
It's even in the economy, there's a term for that.
Yeah.
Wait, what's that called? I've studied this. I don't remember, but it comes from
decision fatigue, I would say.
Decision fatigue, yeah, but it's the I'm missing it, but yeah, decision fatigue, analysis paralysis, you could also call it.
Yeah.
But it's when the consumer has too many options.
Yeah.
They kind of like freeze and they can't make a decision.
End up making none. Yeah. And so we're going to, in this podcast, we're going to be breaking down. Well, we've decided that the way to Arete that we talked about consists of 4 pillars, essentially. We've divided it in 4 pillars. We've got the health, like you mentioned, wealth, the relationships and ethos. And every episode we're going to try and talk about either one of our personal experiences or give a lesson learned in one of these topics. And today, as an introductory episode, I think it would be a nice idea if we just chose one problem that each of us has overcome in each of these areas, and talk about our experience with the problem, how we overcame it, if we overcame it, and maybe someone who's watching will have the same, will be facing the same issue and can learn from it.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure, I haven't given it a lot of thought, but I'm pretty sure, even if we have overcome those problems, there's still problems that are going to come up.
Absolutely.
And essentially, the point is, let's give an overview of everything today. Let's talk about each one of those things.
Yeah.
And down the line, it's going to be about our experiences, what we read on, research that we do, and other things that are going to, I believe, are going to shape every pillar individually.
Yep.
And then hopefully all together, they're going to get us closer and closer. Like I said, again, Arete, even in the ancient Greece, it wasn't something that you could ever get to. And essentially nobody can become perfect. So you can never get to Arete. And that's a very important thing. It's all about wanting to get better every single day, 1% or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of being alive. It's a gift, and you want to fix that.
I think that's also one thing that gives you more meaning in life, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, what do you do? Just
trying to get better.
Just exist. Just be.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing that, actually, and that's what we were saying before. A lot of people just exist, but they have the right to. But I don't believe they actually want to. I believe that we have this. We've been calling it a lot, like the brain rot that comes from. I mean, the term is funny, but it's true.
Yeah.
Social media, doom scrolling, all of those things. When you do those things, and we know through researches and everything how the dopamine and on all those things get what happens in your brain when you scroll, when you do all these things.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you're going to get less and less motivated to do the hard things.
You're basically sedating yourself, trying yourself to feel. You get so stimulated that at some point you start feeling numb to the simple things like reading a book, walking, talking to a loved one. You start losing complete joy in those normal activities that should actually be more fulfilling, and you enter a zombie-like depressed state.
That is true. And honestly, us doing this here, I believe, is the same thing, because you go back to, because we go way back, and
we go way back.
way back. But if you think about us when we were, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 years old, we would spend our time like playing video games and things like that. I'm not saying
it's
that's
a part
bad.
of it.
It's part of it, right? And we went through that as well. But now, it's about making a choice to get away from that. I'm not saying video games are bad, especially nothing that you can do and control yourself when you do it is bad.
Yeah.
Anything that becomes an addiction to the point that you cannot control how much you do it, that is bad.
Exactly.
So it's about us just sitting here instead of just playing, I don't know, Call of Duty or whatever it was, just having a productive conversation.
Yeah, we decided it would be a better
use of our
investment on time, a better ROI.
Sure.
And I'd like to also mention that we do not believe in any way, shape, or form that we are, per se, better than everyone else.
No.
And that we know everything better. I'm about to turn 26. He turned 26 a month ago. And there's definitely a few areas where I believe we have more expertise than other people. Of course, everyone has their own expertise. And we just want to share our journey in also pursuing these same values that we're going to be talking about here. Our journey in improving in these 4 areas that we mentioned. And if anyone is even just one day, if you feel like you're just one day behind in any of these areas, we hope to help you a little bit, hope you learn something from it to apply it to your own life and make your own life better.
100%. As I said earlier, experience is the best teacher. It doesn't need to be your experience.
Yeah.
That's why you want to read books. That's why you want to listen to a bunch of guys just talking about their experiences. And hopefully, they spend some time researching something so you don't have to.
Yeah. Smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise people learn from others people's mistakes.
Yeah, that's true.
So
let's do it. So
do you want to get
health.
Let's get into it?
First and most important pillar, because if you don't have health, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Like we can't talk about anything else. We don't talk about health. As they say, like you got 100 problems until you have one health problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you have one problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
talk to him. Talk to him.
Yeah, let's go.
Preach.
What do you think for you? What would you mention as your one like health problem? It can be mental health or physical health.
That's a good question. So growing up, I was incredibly skinny, as you know. I'm about 25, almost 30, now 25. I've been heavier as well, but now I'm about 25 kilos heavier in muscle mass. And that came, of course, with a lot of insecurities and lower self-esteem, me growing up in school, maybe also getting bullied a little bit. But ultimately, it
was by me.
Ultimately, it affected my behavior, how I portrayed myself, how I carried myself, the opportunities that were presented to me. Because, to be honest, I wasn't really attempting to be too social. I had a few friends like him, unfortunately. I had friends, but I got sent to a different school that I didn't want to be in. And as soon as I got home from school, I would just play video games, endlessly. Video games, hours, thousands and thousands of hours of video games. And right now, 10, 15 years later, I just feel like I could have learned so much more. I could have experienced so much more as a kid. And I wasted a lot of time simply because I just didn't feel confident putting myself out
What you're
there.
saying right now is the wisdom that those 10, 15 years of experiences gave you.
Exactly.
Of course, that could be avoided if somebody's like 15 and watching us now.
Yeah.
They understand, okay, maybe instead of playing 5 hours of Call of Duty, I'll play or whatever they play now.
Yeah.
Or I'll play 1 or 2 and then spend 2 more learning about something important, like what's going on right now, being well versed in what is going on in society, the world, past history. Because what's the quote about those who don't know history?
Those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat itself.
100%. So you want to learn from all these people have lived before you. They have documented their journeys. It's all up for grabs for you to learn. So what would you say now is your...
So, and also on what you said, when you're a kid, you don't care about politics. You don't care about history. A lot of us, it's fine. My point was, the issue was that me not being confident with my body, every day I was looking in the mirror and I was like, I don't like how I look. I look weak. And guess what happened? I felt weak, and I would let others maybe push me over. I didn't really express my own will. And that ultimately set me back. And now, 10, 15 years later, I've been a personal trainer for the past 3 years because I actually studied IT originally. Didn't like it at all. By that time, I had already put on some more muscle. I was more confident. I was doing a lot of things. And then I decided to become a personal trainer because I really hated the IT stuff. And I wanted to help people experience the same benefits, the same confidence boost, the same improvement in life that I did from transforming my own body, because it worked. Look in the mirror and say, okay, I look good. I look strong. I feel strong.
It's the easiest fix.
It's the easiest fix to improve your life.
Yeah. And I guess a little bit different to jump to mine, but on the same note, because it kept me from being able to do the things I wanted to do, the things I felt like were in store for me, was my, I guess, health challenge was having an issue with my back. Like, just for background, like, I've been playing basketball since I was quite young, and I was kind of like chasing it, playing for teams, going high level. I even
You're trying to go pro, yeah?
Yeah, I was trying to go pro as a kid who really liked it, and was, from the average kid, I was better. I played, for a top level team in my country, and everything was going in a way that I wanted to keep playing basketball to see how far I could go. Not necessarily, become a NBA player, but just see how far I could go.
Yeah.
And as soon as I finished school, being playing at a very good team, top team in my country, and wanting to go to a team that had shown interest, that was a professional team.
Which team was that?
It was Lavrio.
Okay.
Had shown a professional interest in me, and I was like, this is great, it's amazing. But I was carrying a very bad injury with my back, which kept me from being able to really compete. And when I had to stop
you went there though, right?
Yeah, I was doing.
Or was that after?
I was doing trainings.
Yeah.
And I had to stop for 2 weeks to take the the Greek SATs, as they call them. I had to stop for those 2 weeks. Yeah, for those 2 weeks, what happened was, because I was constantly training, doing foam roller for my back and everything, my back was at a point where I could play. It hurt, but I could play. As soon as I stopped for 2 weeks, it was like
breakdown.
It was completely done. Like, on my last day of the exams, I couldn't even get up from bed to go to take my exam on the last day. So talked to the team, they were like, well, we'll see next year. And I get it, I did an MRI for my back. It was like 2 discs.
How did that feel?
Well, of course it was devastating, right? Obviously, feeling like I was right there. I could have, I don't even know if I would have played for them, but I could have been on the team, in a pro team. It was amazing for a kid. I was 17 years old then, and wanting to be at that level. So it was devastating. Also, they didn't know how to treat my back, so I was going to the best physiotherapists. They didn't know what to do. 3 months, they told me, don't sit too much, but don't stand too much, but don't do this. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't do anything. It was just a mess. And it took me 3 years before I was at a point where I could do the things I want to do without any problems.
That's crazy. That's such a long time.
Yeah, 3 years, because the first year was about, I couldn't even play. Second year, went in 2 months, then had to stop for a month, and back and forth. Anyways, horrible.
What was the back injury? It was.
So
was
I had 2 herniated discs. Okay. One more was like right there. I'm assuming right now it probably has a hernia.
Yeah.
But now I have like no pain almost. no problems. Like I can do 3 trainings a day and no problem. Back then I couldn't even do 1. So I figured out how to fix it, after going to all these many physiotherapists, figured out what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Went through all, you would know, the mobility, the strengthening, all of those things. And actually, have a very clear protocol of how to do that, which is amazing. But the main thing there, the main change that happened was the first shock of me, like understanding that not everything is in my control.
Yeah.
And to focus on what is in my control. How I overcame it was by making sure my hips were mobile and my back was mobile, which was the main problem.
Yeah.
And getting stronger from the waist down.
But that's you said you were trying to let go of what you couldn't control and focus on what you could control.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really big struggle for a lot of people. How did you manage to find your balance there?
It wasn't easy, especially for a kid who was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. And
adults can't do it.
I don't think at this point I'm like 100% there. I don't know if anybody can go 100% to being like completely unfazed by things they don't control.
Yeah.
I definitely grew a lot through that. But the main thing I did was just, and actually the best way I did it was the first year I couldn't play at all. End of the year, it was summer, end of the basketball season. It was summer, didn't play at all that year. So frustrated, they didn't help me. I had realized that a couple of things helped me, which was like maybe a little bit of swimming and some exercises with like this, what is it called, the Pilates ball, the huge one. And I took one of those with me. It was my first year driving. I took my mom's car and went to my to the country house. Let's say it's called. In Greece we have houses where we come from as a village, and so I went there for a month by myself. Never done before. Stayed there for a whole month for myself. Monk mode, and it wasn't even cool back then. It was nobody saying monk mode. I think stories on Instagram had just came out at that point. So
good old times.
Yeah. So there was no monk mode. There was nothing like that. But it was just me. I was like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to hear anybody's like pity or whatever. I just want to do this. I'm going to do it for a whole month. And I stayed there. I felt, the pain was 9 out of 10. It went to a 3 out of 10. It's a huge improvement. The next year, I was able to do a few more things. Actually, when it was completely fixed in terms of like the back being fixed was in quarantine when I didn't have to play basketball. So I focused on like becoming really strong, and that's when it completely went away. Okay. And because before that, and as a personal trainer, they were very scared of telling me to do squats and lift things that would really help me. So I was doing a lot of like machines and things that honestly they didn't create the balance that I needed. Yeah. And that's what helped me, actually doing squats, deadlifts for my back, which is insane thinking about it.
It's crazy. The knowledge in the field has definitely changed since then, but there's still a lot of physios and trainers who follow that old school philosophy of, don't do that because it's heavy, even though your body needs to start doing that because it's heavy.
It doesn't mean you go with like, 200
Obviously,
kilos of squats.
You still build it up.
I did it with just a bar, then like 10 and 10. We're talking kilos, guys, by the way.
But I still see that with a lot of people who avoid heavy lifting and their back hurts. And it's like, that's what we need to work towards.
Yeah. So that was the main thing. And honestly, from that, what I overcame was both a physical problem and a mental problem. Because it messed up with my head a lot.
But that's very similar, right? For me, it was the physical that was really affecting my mental health. And for you, I
think it's one, having, being healthy mentally and being healthy physically, they're intertwined. You cannot be one or the other. Sorry, you cannot be exceptional at one without being good at the other.
No. That's also one, who was it? Socrates, I don't know, but one ancient saying, right? Nusi and soma tiyi, meaning a healthy mind in a healthy body. But also the opposite, a healthy body in a healthy mind, hopefully.
Yeah, but when I say
you can't have one without the other.
Yeah,
I don't
100%.
think.
I don't. Yeah, you can say that somebody can be very fit, but like let's say depressed. Yeah. But honestly, when I was able to work out, if my depression or what me not feeling good was at a 9 out of 10, it immediately went to a 4. Yeah. It was still there, right? Life, when you have problems, life sucks. Yeah. I understand that. But then again, it's all about making that shift. Training helps a lot. And getting that shift from, I cannot control my back hurting. I can control me doing the things to make it stop hurting.
Exactly.
So I was just focusing on that. And I found the beauty in just knowing that I couldn't do this exercise 2 weeks ago, but now
you
I was able to do it. So that when I was focusing on that, everything changed.
Seeing the progress.
Yeah. And now I have that a lot with everything I do. If something needs to be done step by step, it's clear. And it's also with goals. If we just get a little bit out of that, it's when you have a goal, if you think about, I don't know, somebody will say, I want to have a big house. If you just have that as a goal, that's just a dream. But if all of a sudden you break it down, and that goal is a 10-year goal, and you break it down to something you can do today or tomorrow, even if that means doing something extra work that will get me paid a little bit extra, and you're like, all I need to do is 30 minutes of extra work every day for 5 years, and I've saved up this amount of money, which, like, if you break it down to what you can do today, then it's no longer a goal, it's just a plan you follow.
It's a plan, but you need to make that plan. And
a lot of people don't get that.
You've probably heard the SMART formula. If you want to hit your goal, you need to use the SMART formula, meaning S, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So if you say, I want to have a big house, okay, whatever. It's too vague. It's too vague to trigger any kind of intrinsic motivation.
It overwhelms you as well.
Well, it can overwhelm you, or it just doesn't do anything for you. It's like it's just a dream at that point. But if you say, okay, I want to buy a 3-bedroom apartment in Amsterdam by 30, then and I need,
that's still vague. 500. It's better.
If I need 500K. That's where you start. Now you break that down into a 5-year plan. Okay, how much money do I need to make every year to get there? And you start working your way backwards. You reverse engineer the goal into a daily action.
If you can do that, that's the best way to go. That's the only way, first of all, to set a goal.
That's the formula.
And it's the only way, and then it's the only way that works. And it will definitely work if you follow it. But then it's the discipline to get into that. But it's a whole different animal.
Relationships,
yeah. So
what's one problem you overcame there?
So with my
romantic or friendship, one of the two.
I'll very quickly on romantic ones. It was mainly the trust. I think
trust.
It's trust, and I think a lot of people deal with that because you see social media, you see how other people live. That's one thing that can show you. Oh, look at so many people, like for me, so many girls are unfaithful. Or whatever I see on social media.
That's what you see, yeah.
That's what I see people portraying.
Okay.
I'm not saying how I don't even know how much it's true or not, to what extent, but I see a lot of things on social media saying they're unfaithful. Now all of a sudden I go with that mindset into a relationship or into talking to a girl, I'm not going to trust her 100%.
But she's going to also think, oh, guys are unfaithful.
Yeah, 100%. So first of all, you don't go like blindly 100% trusting somebody you don't know.
No,
that's for sure.
Of course.
And that's how kind of like I sold it, because like to add to it, I also have my own experiences that showed me that what's going on out there is not very.
Now it's getting spicy.
I mean, honestly, and it wasn't.
So what did you experience?
Oh, we're going there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
this podcast is gonna be real, raw, uncut.
Okay, so
the good and the bad.
The good and the bad. I mean, I don't know. To my knowledge, I don't know if any of my past relationships, I didn't have a lot, but if any of my past relationships have like cheated on me or anything like that, I don't know that.
You hope they don't, yeah.
Hopefully, but now I'm at a point where if they did, can't control it. I'm not gonna. There's no control over that, so I don't care. And it doesn't say anything about me. If anything, it says everything about them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my experience was that I saw a lot of, when I was younger, as a young. Teenager, as a young adult boy,
high testosterone and all that.
I wasn't into relationships so much, so I was, I would flirt, I would chat girls, like all the kind of stuff you do at 19, 20.
Yeah.
And
don't hate the play, I hate the game.
Yeah. but 100%, I experienced it a few times that there were girls that were in relationships that actually, like, first of all, I didn't know it. And they went through with it.
Okay, you didn't know it.
I didn't know, and then they did something.
You found out after.
I found out afterwards. Actually, there was one, not proud of it, that I actually didn't know.
Okay.
And I went with it. Okay. That was not good. Oh, look.
We appreciate the honesty. Yeah.
Being real. Again, I don't know.
We're not perfect.
19, 20, And the thing is that with a lot of them, I didn't know. And even if I knew, I would still see things that I was like, what is going on here? Like, even though I would, and none of them were relationships. Like, it wasn't like an affair, but it was like something that happened once or twice, and that was it. But I would still see things about what's going on, and I was like, this is insane. The fact that I'm sitting here and, you know, she's talking to her boyfriend, and with a girl, it was like she never told me.
Mad.
She never told me, and then I was like, she was on her phone for like 5 minutes. I was like, hey, yo, like, what's going on? Like, because we were supposed to do something, and she was like, oh, I'm just talking to my boyfriend. I'm like, wait, what?
Yo, what?
And it was so casual. I'm like, is this what's going on out there? Like as a main thing. So that was a huge problem for me.
Yeah.
The trust.
I can imagine that really just put a knife in that trust.
Yeah,
cut it
because
open.
First of all, there's no future without girl. You don't, like, the way this happened. Even if she was like, oh, I'm dumping my boyfriend, and I'm because I really, like, I'm so in love with you. Like, you cannot trust them. Like, you did that to him. Why would you do it to me?
Exactly. Yeah.
So all these problems, how I overcame this was essentially what I just briefly mentioned right before I said this, which was you cannot control what other people do. You need to be, and what we said earlier with health, you need to only focus on the things you can control. Your relationship is 50% yours, 50% theirs. You can only do 50%.
50%.
You cannot control them, checking, you know, who they talk to,
Yep.
where they are, like all these things. All it does is it's not going to prevent somebody from cheating. It's not going to prevent somebody from lying to you. So set very clear standards, which is what I did. Next relationship I ever had was like first date. I don't care about anything else. Radical honesty and transparency. Nothing else matters to me. I don't care what you do.
Radical honesty and transparency.
I don't care. I'm doing the same thing. I'm gonna be honest to a point where it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be even like hurtful or offensive. I'm gonna do that because this is my duty. Otherwise, I'm hiding things, and it doesn't. I don't like that, and I don't want to live in a situation where I need to remember what I said, so I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
And the right people are gonna stay, and that's what happens. The right people are gonna stay if you set the right standards.
But
that's
I think,
how you go over.
I think
trust.
a lot of women would appreciate that, or a lot of people would appreciate that on a first date. If the other person was like, "Hey, listen, this is me. Might not be pretty, you might not like it, but this is me. This is what. But at least you know what you're getting."
Those who don't, they're not for you.
You actually filter out the people that would be incompatible.
100%. For you,
it's a good screening process. Well, there's a lot. For now, I would say.
I mean, I said for romantic. If you want, you can say for.
Yeah.
You can say for friendships. You know.
Okay, let's go friendships. Thanks, you're saving me there. I don't have to talk about my past romantic relations. That's good.
I mean,
for now, okay, I'll keep it.
There's gonna be a lot of episodes for you to do that. Don't worry.
There's plenty of time to expose me. It ties back down to the confidence issue before, and this just shows just one more way in which just being in good shape and feeling confident about who you are makes your life better. Like it being in shape just transpires into all the other areas of your life, your career, your relationships, your finances, everything. And I would often adjust my personality, not extremely, but still, I would adjust myself a little bit depending on also who I hang out with. Maybe laugh at different things, different humor, do different things with different people, or pretend I at some point in college I would hang around people, for example, who like smoked weed and listen to techno, and I hated both smoking weed and techno. And you just know that eventually that's just not going to work. Sure, you can pretend for a little bit, but then at some point you realize actually this is not working, and you're back to square one, right? So instead of adjusting myself, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to be myself. And yeah, they're not going to like that. We got different habits anyway. That's cool. We have different things we do. But it's automatically going to attract the right people that also enjoy the things that I like doing. And it's going to filter out, again, the people that don't. So adjusting myself, my personality to fit in. That was
the problem.
That was my biggest.
And how you solved it. If you can say it in one.
How I solved it, I realized we were doing things, and I was like, what am I doing here? Why are we smoking what am I
So
doing in this party?
essentially, you just made the choice to.
I was like, you know what?
You know what I understand is like
It's gotta go.
Everything we've said so far, it's all about just deciding towards direction. First of all, the main problem is having a clear image of like what the direction should be.
Yeah.
But then all our solutions so far have been deciding towards something. A lot of people, if they see this, they can be like, yeah, but that's not. Oh, just decide. Oh, well, I knew that. Thank you, Captain Obvious. But
yeah, obviously it's.
For that, I wanted to say a specific thing, which is, a lot of things in life are just about like everything in life is decisions. Yeah. So a lot of things are going to be about deciding what you should or want to do, and doing that, and just going with that. And you say, how do you build the willpower to do that? I think that a very helpful, change in the mindset here would be that being ready is not a feeling. So a lot of people say, I don't feel ready. So if you change that in your mind, just understand that, and trust me on that. Not because I know, but it's like
you're never gonna be ready.
You're never gonna feel ready.
Feel ready
Because it's not a feeling. It's not a feeling. So look it up if you want to, or whatever. Exactly. It's not a feeling. So if you treat being ready as a choice, as a decision, so you say, okay, I will do this because I choose to be ready.
Yeah.
If you treat it as a feeling, you're never gonna feel ready. It's not gonna be the right time. You're gonna give all these excuses. But if you treat it as a choice, then it's easier than to have to go into the whole of like, okay, I'm not gonna be doing this anymore. I'm ready to stop. Is it going to be easier? You might relapse. You might go back to it. That's okay. But as long as you understand, you're conscious of it, and then you're making the change again and again. I've tried to do this diet or that diet. I've relapsed a few times, but I stopped treating it as like, oh, it's impossible for me to eat this. I shouldn't eat this. Yeah. It's like, can I control it? If I can control how much sugar I eat, then I will eat it.
It's not black and white. You don't have to do it straight off the bat. As long as you keep trying, you're heading in that direction. At some point, you're going to get there.
Even this episode, did it feel ready? I don't know. We were out walking. It was kind of like my last couple of days here, and we were out walking, and we came back. I was tired. I was like, we're gonna have a conversation no matter what. Like, might as well just do it here.
We literally came up with the idea yesterday.
But
like, we were playing around with an idea of doing something, and yesterday it just clicked. And we're like, let's do it. Guess what? And for context, he lives in Greece. Yeah. I live in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And first thought, oh, how would we do it? We live in different. Doesn't matter. Just get started. Yeah, you'll figure out the rest. And to give you maybe a bit more of an actionable tip on what I mentioned before, because like you said, it's not easy you can tell people, just cut those people off. Just don't fit in. Yeah. Just do it, bro. Just feel confident.
It doesn't. I know it doesn't work. Yeah.
But to give you a more actionable insight, what I did was, you know what? The body is not good at stopping to do things. Also with habits like smoking and drinking or hanging out with people, you can't just cut things off. It's often you need to replace it first. You need to replace it. You need to replace bad habits with the good habits. And obviously I had friends that just weren't like close friends that weren't in my direct environment. But what I did, instead of focusing on hanging out with friends, I just focused on myself. Okay, you know what? I have some more time now. If I don't hang out with them on Friday night, let me dial a bit more into my workout. Let me hone in on my diet.
Okay.
Let me do some reading.
So you want to build a habit to replace that.
100%.
That's actually I didn't know that was actually easier. 100%. I'm sure you've done your research on that, because first of all, it makes sense.
Well, imagine you go out, you're drinking alcohol.
I already have it in my mind.
No, but imagine I tell you can't drink alcohol. You can't drink anything. But what if I tell you can drink alcohol, but you can drink a Coke?
Yeah. So then I have
how much easier?
Yeah, it's way easier. It's the conversation we had earlier with this guy at the park. It's what you focus on is what you see. So if you tell me you can't drink alcohol, all I'm saying is that I can't drink alcohol. So it stresses me out if it's something that I enjoy doing. Yeah. But if you tell me that for this week or for this month, instead of alcohol, we're gonna be drinking Coke Zero. We're gonna be drinking instead of.
You like Coke Zero? What's something you like? You're weird.
Yeah, I'm very weird with drinking.
What's something you like?
But Coke Zero, I'll have a Coke Zero, yeah. But it will work. It will work.
Let's say you like it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a problem with drinking something you like, right?
No.
So you play that mind trick on yourself.
It's not extremely, because at the same time, they're like, oh, yeah, but I'm not drinking alcohol, which was what I want to do. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, guys. Like, I'm not going to say it's going to be a walk in the park.
It worked for me.
Yeah, but still, you probably have like highest willpower than the average person, from what I experienced.
Stop.
From my experience. But what I mean is, even for me, okay, I don't drink alcohol. Like the first time I ever drank alcohol, it was like before you left. You remember, like it was 18 years old.
Alcohol is maybe also not the best example for us, because also from a young age we were always.
Yeah, we were never drinking. Yeah. But at the same time, I got to a point where I was drinking.
We have drunk a lot.
Yeah, we have. But we were never we're always going to be at the bottom, I would say 5% of people.
It was never a thing.
Never. Before quarantine, I hadn't, I think I could count it in my fingers how many times I had drunk. Mm-hmm. And I was already 3 years into my adult years, let's say.
Respect.
But now the main thing is, for me, I like drinking. I liked socially just having a beer. For me, I don't like hard alcohol, so it was always like a beer or wine. People are looking at this like, what are these crazy people are saying? But it was still something I wanted to do, because I was kind of used to it. And instead of cutting cold turkey, I would say every second time I have a chance to drink, I will not do it. Then the word is next week I can drink. So instead of drinking once a week, I went to once every 2 weeks.
So you're giving yourself that delayed gratification.
Yeah, and instead I said from that, instead of having that, I would have maybe I found a different drink that I liked. I also had a sweet, rewarded myself with I'll just have pasta or something.
That's a sweet?
Mm-hmm.
It's not sweet.
Oh yeah, I was thinking Greek, man. No, I meant
a Greek pasta.
Yeah, you know what I mean, right? It's for context, guys, it's just like
a pastry.
A pastry, a profiterole. It's kind of whatever. But it made it easier. Mm. So building up a good habit. For me, I never did that, but for me,
so it's the same actually. You did it without.
Without realizing. Without realizing. A very good example is, you always go out and you want to reduce the amount that you go into. Give yourself a reason to sleep early. So find a gym where a really hot girl goes in firt thing in the morning and say we'll go in every day.
I gotta be there.
I mean, honestly, guys have done worse. So, sure. So just be find a gym where 7 o'clock in the morning. There's a couple of hot girls or something, and say I'm gonna be going every day. First of all, you're gonna get in shape.
Yeah.
Second of all, you might even get a number.
Hey.
Third of all, you're gonna sleep early and you're not gonna go out as much.
And you're gonna feel good the next day.
So, replacing it with a good habit. You just have to reshift the focus.
What worked really, I would plan in clients on Saturday morning to train my clients. Because if I plan in my client at 8 a.m.,
you can't go out.
I have to be
work,
up.
Yeah.
I have work. Sorry.
Actually, because I didn't like going out so much. And people are gonna think we're weird, but I didn't like I hated.
You do like going out.
Yes, but I hated the staying up until 3 or 4 or 5. I hated that. Even as a young person.
No one enjoys that.
Some people do it, and then the next day they're ready to go.
But they don't actually enjoy it.
Yeah, for me it was never the case. So a lot of times, because I have training, when I didn't want to do something with people, I was like, I have training first in the morning. Even if I didn't, I would still go to the gym or do something. Yeah. So there are a lot of ways you can do that, and that's a very good actionable advice that you can do. Now, we talked about relationships. We didn't talk about fitness, but essentially our health and fitness was pretty close. Now, ethos.
Ethos. Again, ethos is the spirit of a person, a community, an organization. It is the
collection of virtues,
set of values and principles that you operate, by which you operate. Mm-hmm. And we believe that it's you collect them, like we said, from your experience
and education,
because in order to be able to understand again your role in the world and what the meaning is of everything and what you're here to do, you need to first understand how the world works.
Yeah.
And that's the society, that's the culture, that's the history,
that's what we didn't,
religion.
That's what we didn't mention earlier, like society. And like the psychology of people in society. That's also a very important part. So when I say education, in my mind, and I understand yours as well, so we want to make sure everybody understands that when you're educated, it's not about going to college. Going to college is great. I'm not saying not go to college. Definitely go to college if there's a career that you want to follow through that, or don't go to college if there's no career if there's no career that you want to do through that. Yeah. I believe college is a great experience.
I think if you can go to college for the thing that you want to do, you should.
Yeah, that's the perfect example.
And not even just the education, just the experience.
Yeah, and so it's not just college. So we're talking about books. You have like a huge library of books here. Mm-hmm. Self-help books, great. You got to add history in there.
100%.
Politics.
100%.
Society, in terms of course, history and politics contain society, but also maybe get a book that has an angle on how society works, how the people in society work, and like because it's a whole science, right? Yeah, that's right. It's a whole science. So even separating it from history and politics, just addressing this from a psychological perspective, the psychology of the masses, all those things are identified in history. But if you can't yet derive those from the history events, you can still get them through psychology books. So just with these things, you already started something. And going through struggles is a great chance to grow yourself in those matters. Because if I had the same mindset now when I was a kid going through my back injury, if I spend more time educating myself, I would come out of this a way better person than I was.
Yeah.
Because all I was thinking, I was focusing on the problem for all this time. That's why it took me 3 years. I was focusing on the problem. So every day was about just playing basketball. So I would only wait to go to my training. I would only wait to go to my physiotherapy.
Just kill time.
And I was killing time, which is insane.
Such a shame.
Yeah, it's insane. Obviously, I learned from it, and I'm glad I learned now. You know, I could have learned at 50. Not saying it's old, but my point is that I'm glad I did it. Better late than never.
In that context, it's also okay. You were also resting, right, for your training. Rest is it's also important.
Doesn't take a lot to
killing time. I think is one of the worst things you can do. You never want to kill time. It's the most valuable asset we all have. Time
relaxing your brain.
Relaxing
is great.
Actively, that is a decision. That is an activity. Rest, recovery is fine. But killing time. Anyone who says, let's kill some time, I don't think that's a good way of thinking. And I said earlier, as a kid, you probably as well. Speaking for myself, I didn't like history. I didn't like politics. Maybe
I didn't like history.
Maybe it had to do something with my teachers. I don't know. They made it very boring. But lately, I've just discovered how interesting it really can be. And there's a lot of things happening in the world at the moment.
Always have been. This book is one of the best you can read for this.
Because so I was going to say there's a lot of things happening in the world, and learning the history actually helps you understand why things are happening right now.
And what could happen next.
And what can happen next. And this book, it's called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Probably my favorite book of all time.
Definitely top 3 for me.
Top 3 for sure. It has a lot of actionable lessons you can learn from it about human psychology and how the world works and
how people operate.
And he explains it by giving you historical examples.
Yeah, which I feel like it hits the spot so well. Because it's one thing to say through a book, it's like this is the better thing to do. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's a self-help book. It's like, oh, you want to do this. Yeah, but it's not about just wanting to do this. And somebody can be very wise and you listen to them. And I hope you got, hope I can be that person or you can person they can listen to us. But what I mean is that he showed you an example of that law that a person used to deceive all the other people and how he did it and so if you know that, if you remember this example of the person who deceived everybody back then, it was in Europe, I don't remember when.
So many stories.
Yeah, so many stories. And he deceived all these people. Now you know that you know what to look for when you're being deceived.
Yeah.
You know, how somebody will speak to you to deceive you.
Yeah.
And you don't just know because somebody told you, you know because it has happened before. And again, those who don't know history, they're doomed to repeat it. Yeah. And it's happened again and again and again throughout history, how, empires have risen and then fallen in the same way. And you say, okay, they don't learn. they don't read, and they don't take the right messages from that.
There's a lot of things happening in the world now that have happened in a very similar setting in the past, and if you know that, then now you could look at it and say and kind of predict where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful.
Yeah. So for ethos, because we went to
what would you say?
We went to that. For me, essentially the biggest problem is that is defining defining something that I'm 110% like standing behind in terms of like to solidify a set of values.
Yeah.
And to say this is the set of values that I should have and everybody should have. Or
yeah.
First of all, the problem, yeah,
that would make the world a better place.
Yeah, the perfect set of values.
Does that exist though?
Let's see. My point is that's the problem for me. It's defining what's the perfect set of values and how exactly I can get there. The solution to this problem is essentially pretty much what we said, and we're going around in circles, but it's important because the solution to the problem is reading all these topics that we talked about, experiencing myself and learning from other people's experiences.
Having the conversation.
Yeah. From you, from people in the books, from people in history, from other people.
Staying open-minded and pursuing the knowledge.
Yeah, pursuing the knowledge, because then having all these different perspectives and angles, you will see a lot. You have a much more clear image, which is what you want to decide. Okay, this is right, this is wrong. Having all these perspectives, because I grew up in Greece, Christian country.
Yeah.
Different values, different.
Did you do Christian or?
Yes, because you know why I did that. Because we are raised as Christians, but it's not very fanatic in terms of like there is no pressure. I was baptized, for example, but at no point in my life was my household like a Christian household, like to go to church and all these things. I feel like it's more about tradition than it is religion. Greece is very good with that because it keeps a great balance. Somebody who really wants to follow that religion, they're doing it. It's a very religious country, but at the same time, the people who don't want to be very religious, at the same time, they're respecting the traditions. They're following the traditions because it's part of our society, and they're just enjoying that.
I know people who are not Christian, who do not identify as Christian per se, but they'll still baptize their kid.
Yeah, 100%.
Go to church on Easter.
My parents were not Christian.
Yeah.
In that term, but I was baptized because it was the traditional thing to do, as a Greek. Now
it does preserve those certain
and I like that, and I enjoy that actually, because that's kind of like that's what I believe is the right angle for globalization and modern society, because you want to get rid of the things that maybe back in the day worked, but now they couldn't really work. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things, obviously, in all religions that are not very compatible with the modern world now. Yeah. And that's okay. I don't believe the modern world should completely get destroyed to be rebuilt back how it was 2,000 years ago. I'm not saying that, but I believe that a modern version of those values being integrated in society and following those values just because it's part of a society, not because you believe in the religion. I believe that's a better angle to keeping those values, because in the beginning of the episode we said that those values are getting less and less important,
dissipating. Yeah,
they're disappearing. So how do you keep them? I think Greece has done a good job. Not perfect by any means, but has done a good job by integrating them to society without forcing people to be religious, because a lot of people don't want to, and that's okay. If they respect the values and they still, because they're being nice to each other, they respect this, that's great.
I think you mentioned the globalization, and it could be, well, I think it's proving to also be problematic when one country is preserving those values, but then because we are mixing each other so much, people who have a different belief system come and try to integrate, then sometimes it can create a bit of friction there as well.
And now we're getting into this subject, which is in the politics mainly. And honestly, being in Europe, it's something that's a huge, like if you look on social media right now, it's a huge, not problem, but a lot of people are talking about it, which is, how immigration has impacted Europe and everything.
It's a huge topic right now.
It's a huge topic. You see movements from both sides going insane. And I understand both sides, like the ideas, right? At the same time, it's kind of like the root of the problem is what you just said, is people with completely different values trying to mix. So for that, what do you think would be the, out of curiosity, how do you think that you can have a peaceful, like, not peaceful, we're not in any war at the moment. A symbiotic relationship. And I think it's kind of like in any partner relationships where you have both people have to take a step back and settle for some things. And I think that's kind of like the only way to make it work.
It is.
Without having what we're having right now.
It is.
What do you think?
Well, it's if you look at two people doing that together, it's easy, but doing it at scale, nationwide,
it's very hard.
That's the real challenge. I'm not sure. I don't know that's a very complicated issue. I don't know.
We can't get into it. It could be a different episode.
Solution right now.
And that's not the point.
But it's just one example of educating yourself on these topics can help you understand the world better. And you mentioned, I guess, to sum up what you said, you want to define essentially a compass that can give you direction in your decision making. Anytime you face a decision, you fall back to your values, your principles, and you're like, oh, this is what I believe, that's what I do. And that way, even if it's wrong, you stood by your values, and there's no regret because that's what you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is that this set of values should 90% of the times help you make the right decision.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't,
but that's the goal. That's the pursuit of ethos.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking
100%.
about. And the solution to that is what we said. And ideally, if everybody individually do what we are trying to do for ourselves, what we hope people that would watch would do, if everybody tried to do that, to
define these values for themselves.
If everybody did that with the right mindset, I believe we would get to a point where these core values at their core would be very similar, if not the same. I truly believe that. If we take away all the things that steer us clear from that, it would take away the hate towards people that believe different things than us. If we take all those things out and see everybody individually as as not the same, but like as just a human being as they are, and we take all those things out and we individually work towards our ethos, I believe that those values would be at a very high level, similar if not the same.
Yeah.
I believe that. That's why I want to do that myself. That's why I hope to get people to do that themselves.
Absolutely. And that's also the goal of this podcast. Like you said, we are, and it's not us preaching a set of values, it's us sharing our own journey of discovering these values and how we can navigate the world better, and to keep pursuing excellence, which is IT. Just keep trying to get better, staying open-minded, and educating ourselves to ultimately fulfill our social responsibilities, live more purposefully, and make the world a better place.
Yeah, 100%. That's the goal. That's what people 2,000, 3,000 years ago were doing. And I believe we got to a point in society that it's about time we start understanding what they were doing and trying to do it ourselves here. Because I believe that we got to a point where we've advanced so much that we forgot to bring in like those good qualities. And imagine if all the people right now individually did that.
Yeah.
The world would be an amazing place to be.
Amazing.
But they don't. So let's hope that watching this podcast will help them do that.
What we're here to do.
Yeah. And next time we're gonna start picking out specific things based on our experience, based on what we wanna learn. Like it could be even us just picking a topic, researching the heck out of it, and just coming here and sharing what I learned, what you learned, debating, because you might have found something
100%.
I disagree with. That's definitely going to happen throughout the.
Nothing wrong with a good, healthy debate.
Yeah, that's how you grow. So let's stay tuned. We're gonna bring a lot of those things in, break down all these pillars individually, get like very deep into it. We're gonna have like history talks, politics,
fitness,
health,
self-improvement,
all these things together.
Everything.
it's not just another health.
It's not just another self-help podcast.
Yeah, that's not the point. The point is just to keep it raw, keep it unfiltered. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.